Hello everybody and welcome back to another not applicable Formula 1 video. I hope that you're well, I hope you're having a good weekend. And with Hamilton signing a new contract for Mercedes, I kind of wanted to delve into this week how much it costs the team to have a driver and how much each of these drivers earns over the course of the year. So first of all, I started off looking at where they live. And my goodness, all the drivers pretty much live in Monaco or have some form of residence in Monaco. And can you blame them? Look how beautiful it is. And we know Formula 1 is a rich man's sport. We've talked about Hamilton before, saying cash is king in Formula 1. And when you look at pictures like this and the fact that we actually get to have races in this city, it's absolutely exquisite. How on earth they make it happen, I will have no idea. But that just sort of shows you the money we are talking about when we look at Formula 1. These are some of the best drivers in the world. They are putting their life on the line every single race. And they are absolutely at the pinnacle of their sport. These are the 20 best racing drivers in the world. So how much do you actually get to earn if you are one of these best 20 racing drivers? And that's where it becomes actually kind of difficult to know how much they get every single year. So the money that they get is split into three separate categories. The salary which they get from the team, bonuses that they get based on points and positions and podiums. And I'd imagine that that varies massively from team to team. And we don't really hear too much about the bonuses. Obviously, we've got that Kimi Raikkonen bonus at Lotus that we all know about, where he got, what was it, like $1 million per point or something ridiculous, and he was about to run Lotus out of business. It was absolutely hilarious, the fact that Kimi Raikkonen just turned it on in that Lotus. And then finally, the endorsements. Again, something you don't really hear about too often, apart from maybe, Tommy Hilfiger working with Lewis Hamilton and those kind of endorsements that we see on the grid all of the time. We don't really know how much different brands and companies are paying these drivers to wear their merchandise or, drive their certain car, that kind of thing. So I've focused mainly on the salaries this time around because the bonuses and endorsements, there really isn't a lot of information out there about that. And, if you're a brand, you probably wouldn't want to give away exactly how much money you're paying a driver. And again, if you're a team, you probably don't want to give away how much bonus you're maybe giving to one driver compared to the other and that kind of thing. So looking purely at the salaries, I decided to sort of look into how much it would cost your team to get the driver that you want. You've probably got a team in mind. Personally, for me, I'm a McLaren follower, so I'd love to see people like Gasly in a McLaren, to see people like George Russell in a McLaren. But how much would that actually cost McLaren to have? So, starting at the back of the grid, the Haas boys, both on $1 million per year. The two rookies coming in at a flat base salary of $1 million. And that's fairly common throughout the grid because the Williams have exactly the same thing. Now, I was a bit surprised when I saw the Williams ones because I thought George Russell might have just sort of raked in a tiny little bit more, but maybe that comes in the form of bonuses. You'd imagine that George Russell and Latifi can't get paid exactly the same over the course of the year because George Russell is just continually getting the best out of that car. And Latifi is having a mixed bag of a season, isn't he? Never really sets the grid alight in the same way that George Russell does, managing to get into Q3 for the first time this weekend. I mean, he's had a pretty good drive, hasn't he, George Russell, all in all. Then we move on to the Alfa Romeo guys, and this is where you see the big money start to come in. The experienced drivers, the price tag, experience really does pay apparently in Formula 1. If you've been around the block like Kimi Raikkonen has, you get 10 times the amount, another 9 million compared to the 1 million that Giovinazzi gets. Kimi Raikkonen, $10 million a season. Is that worth it for Alfa Romeo, the extra $9 million for Kimi Raikkonen? Maybe you can let me know in the comments below. Personally, I think that experience is incredibly valuable to Alfa Romeo, and we see Kimi Raikkonen get every single thing out of that car every single weekend. I feel like he has much more of an influence behind the scenes as well compared to Giovinazzi, and therefore that $9 million extra dollars does get you quite a lot. Whether it's $9 million worth of value in a year, that's left to be seen, really, isn't it? Then we move on to the Alpine guys, and again, we have a stark difference. We finally jump up to the 5 million bracket, and there's quite a few drivers that get paid 5 million. Ocon is one of them. with Alonso getting paid 20 million. Now I understand why Alonso came back into Formula One and why he did not hesitate to snap Alpine's hand off for that drive this season. $20 million. And again, that experience on the grid really does pay when it comes to Formula One. You sort of work your way up to those top bracket pay packets from the teams, and Alonso is definitely one of those drivers. Then we look at the Aston Martin guys, a little bit closer between these two. Stroll on 10 million and Vettel on 15. I thought Vettel would be a little bit more expensive, to be honest with you. Alonso being more expensive than Vettel sort of surprised me, just because Vettel's been around the block too. But 15 million for Vettel there. I think that's a pretty good deal, to be honest with you, considering how much Vettel brings and the endorsements that Vettel brings and also the fan base that Vettel brings. I think that's a pretty good price for Vettel. And then Stroll bringing in 10 million and also his dad to the team. So pretty indescribable how much that 10 million takes off of how many millions that Lawrence Stroll has already put into the team. Then we move up into the AlphaTauri boys. And the AlphaTauri boys, a little bit cheap, which is insane to say, because Gasly is $5 million and Yuki Tsunoda only 500,000. The only driver to not earn $1 million or more is Yuki Tsunoda, bless him, in the rookie drive for the AlphaTauri. And you know, he'll work his way up there, won't he? But at the moment, Yuki Tsunoda sits bottom of the table in terms of earnings in Formula One this year. Then we move on to Ferrari, and this is where you get some real money coming in again. Carlos Sainz, 10 million. Charles Leclerc, 12 million per year. Ferrari, you know, they've got some pretty deep pockets at Ferrari. They get a lot of bonuses for being the Ferrari team and the Ferrari brand, and therefore, you know, they can splash the cash a little bit more than most teams can. So 10 million for Sainz, 12 million for Leclerc. I think that might become fairly comparable because Sainz and Leclerc have been absolutely toe-to-toe this season, and I can see them maybe, you know, paying them the same in a couple of years' time. But overall, I think pretty good value overall there. 22 million overall for a very good partnership, a very good team for Ferrari, when you consider that 20 million gets you Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. And I think Lando Norris will be looking for a little bit of a pay packet boost because he is only getting 5 million, the same as the likes of Gasly, when Ricciardo is getting 15 million. And Ricciardo really hasn't turned up this season and really hasn't warranted that 15 million yet, has he? Yet being the operative word. Hopefully he can turn it around this season, get a little bit more under the belt. Then we have the Red Bull guys, and Red Bull really splashed the cash on Max Verstappen. I didn't realize the stark difference between the rest of the grid and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, 25 million per season. And no wonder that they can only afford to pay Sergio Perez 8 million per season, because 25 million is a hefty chunk for Max Verstappen. But, you know, when you're looking at a possible world champion, they finally give him the car this season where he could turn this into a world championship drive. And I think 8 million for Sergio Perez, who is now carrying Red Bull to a constructor's title as well, I think that's a bit of a steal, to be honest with you. I could see that the Sergio Perez worth a lot more than 8 million. And I think they've done very well to get Sergio Perez in for £8 million, $8 million, sorry, when he could be the catalyst for Red Bull finally taking that step forward and beating Mercedes to a constructor's title this year. Talking of Mercedes, £30 million for Lewis Hamilton. I know that he's just signed a new contract, but $30 million a year is insane. And then Valtteri Bottas in sort of the £10 million bracket. Again, quite a few drivers in that £10 million bracket. But Lewis Hamilton, $30 million. And you know what? You can't really argue against it. He is a 7-time world champion. He continually breaks records for pole positions, for wins, for just continually being one of the most elite drivers we are ever going to see in Formula One. I don't think anyone is going to get to his standard in the next few years. I would be really surprised if we see another 7 times world champion in the next 20 to 30 years. You know what I mean? It's going to be very close between them. And then if we sort of look at the overall standings, this is where we are at in terms of how much these drivers cost each one of their teams. Alonso and Ricciardo, very high up on this list for me personally. I don't think that they are that much better than some of the guys in and amongst the middle. But I guess, as I said, that experience really does pay in Formula One. And when you've got so much experience, it kind of helps in the background as well. I think that's why Alonso, Ricciardo, and Vettel are there. So Vettel's almost like an engineer in the car, similar to Alonso, right? They're almost giving that extra little bit every single weekend to the guys at the factory, to the guys on the ground in the teams. And being able to be an engineer within the car, you kind of have to pay them two salaries. You're paying for Vettel to be your driver, but you're also paying for his feedback, his continual knowledge, his understanding of how to win world championships, his understanding of those top teams and how they run different parts of their sections in their team. And it's that you're paying for as well. But also, I'd like to know, who do you think deserves the biggest pay rise? I want a comment question down below. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. But also, comment down below which driver deserves the biggest pay rise at the end of the season. Who do you think out of these drivers here deserves the biggest pay rise? For me personally, it's got to be Sergio Perez or Lando Norris. Lando Norris is on flames this season, and Sergio Perez is about to probably carry his team to a constructors title alongside Max Verstappen. But if you look at the stark difference between Sergio Perez and Bottas at the moment, I think Sergio Perez is going to win out that battle. And if Max Verstappen can win out the battle with Lewis Hamilton, that guides Red Bull to their first constructors title in quite some time. But let me know what you think. Comment question down below. Who deserves the biggest pay rise on the grid? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and a little delve into how much it would cost your team to bring in your favorite driver. Thank you again so much, and I will see you next time.